Let's talk TBRs. Hi. Hey. Welcome to this weird audio experience that is my living room. I am me, your void. And you did not hear wrong. I said TBRs. Plural. Because guess what? It's the magical readathon, and it is the fall equinox thingamathing thing, which means it's the harder one of the 2 rounds you get each year, and in my glorious stupidity, I have decided, when this readathon started, many eons ago, to go with 2 different callings, meaning I essentially doubled all my prompts, because I am what? Correct. Stupid. So this month I aim to read 18 books. We have a lot to get through. So let's start. The 2 callings I chose were first and foremost the Feywild Cartographer, and the second calling being the Demonologist. The Demonologist came to me because I was done with the Feywild Cartographer and wanted to do something else. Back then we were all on the novice after we all finished the novice path. So I just added it to it, and because I am a competitive and perfectionist root bitch, I have done both of them ever since. Surprisingly, I have yet to fail a round of the magical readathon. I have always completed both of those paths, callings. Don't ask me how. In my statistics, April, spring round, and August, fall round, are always my best reading months because of this readathon. So, I mean, you see the stack. You see the stack. It is quite a deceptive stack, because there are 5 more books on this stack, but they are all in this tiny little e-reader. I will go through my TBR sorted by calling, so we have at least a bit of structure. I know, shocker, me, structure, what the fuck, who the fuck am I? So let's head into the Feywild Cartographer first, because we fucked the system of alphabetical order. The first book I'm going to read, I'm not going to read this in order, I'm just presenting it in order of the prompts I need to fulfill for the calling that I have chosen, which is it. This readathon is really complicated. I will leave the video that G from Book Ross. Oh yeah, have I mentioned this whole thing is made by G from Book Ross? She made an amazing video explaining how this readathon works and how you can hop into it if you haven't started all the way back with the novice path. I say all the way back, it's not actually that old. So I will not read the prompts in order, I will just present the prompts in order, because I need a list to work with. The first prompt and the first book that I'm going to read is Never Good Enough, issue number 1 by CTK. This is a manga, as you can see. And this will fulfill the prompt of alchemy, which is to read the first in the series. This is the first issue in a duology, and it's a manga. I don't really know what it's about. It's a romance, gay, and it's basically, in the beginning of this, apparently a guy breaks up out of nowhere with his partner, and then the brother of that partner hears about that, and then there's some obsession happening. I have no idea where this is going. So this might actually be some sort of stalker romance or something. I don't know. It says obsession on the back. So I take it as that this romance is starting off on not so healthy terms. Prompt number 2 is pet pick for animal studies, which was super nice to me. I don't have a pet right now. I wish I had for the longest time, but right now I don't have a pet. I'm very lonely. So I had to rely on G's cats, and one of them, I believe it was Momo. I need to be German, where's my paperwork? I have it all written down. Like, again, I'm a professional. For animal studies, Momo was very nice to me. It said to write down 4 options. I did so. Options 1, 2, and 3 were books. Option number 4 was a freebie, and Momo was kind enough to choose number 4, so I got a freebie, which gave me the hardest time ever in this whole stack of books. For some reason, I thought I would leave the freebie open to have something to mood read, but currently I'm not in a mood reading mood, if that makes sense. So I decided last night to figure out what I'm going to read for the freebie prompt, and I landed on Looking Glass by Christina Henry, which is the 3rd installment in the Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass retelling. And it's a collection of, I believe, 4... It's a collection of 4 short stories, finishing out the whole story of Alice and her lover? I'm still not sure about that. About Alice and Hatcher, her travel companion. Let's call them roommates. And I chose this because, given that it is 4 short stories, I can be like, hey, I read something, and then I read a short story, and then I read something else, and then I read another short story. And given that I have more than 4 books on my TBR, I can actually finish this book in nice separated chunks. And it's been like on my shelf forever and like has super fancy sprayed edges. The whole series has, at least the German hardcovers. I don't know about the English ones. I quite enjoyed the first 2 books. They are dark. They are some of the darkest Alice in Wonderland retellings I have ever seen, consumed, percepted. It somehow manages to capture the whole surrealism aspect, the whole weirdness of it all, while being super fucking dark and still telling a story that is new, but also somewhat the same. It's a good retelling. Then we have prompt number 3, which is Demonology. Demonology is so mean this round, with the first one being read the first book you see on social media. And I was like, oh no. I kind of was expecting what happened. Kind of. I just didn't expect it to be this specific one. Another book from the same author. For this one, I went to my Instagram feed and I'm going to read Doves and Demons by Clio Evans. My love. This is a very dark and probably, most likely very smutty monster romance thing. It takes place in the Roaring Twenties, which is apparently filled with monsters. And we follow Irene, who is thrown into this world, or discovers this world, more or less, because he's kidnapped by a Mothman, an Unseelie, and a demonic plague doctor. And then they have happy times, I guess. I'm excited. Love this cover. Look at it. Look at her. Look at her, she's so pretty. The steampunkiness of it all. So this is the first book that showed up on my Instagram feed. This prompt will come back later. Prompt number 4 is astronomy. And astronomy wants me to pick a book based on the song, or the title of the song, that I have listened to last. I picked this book right after I watched the announcement video for this readathon. And I'm so glad I did, because I was listening to a song called The Darkness Within by Into the Pale Abyss. Again, with the paperwork. And I'm very glad that I listened to a song that has this name. Not because I went with the or into in the title. No, I went with the darkness word. I went with darkness. And I have to be a bit edgy. So I went with darkness, and I picked out an ebook that I picked up for Stuff Your Kindle Day. It is called The End of Darkness, and it is written by Shea, Balik. Well, we follow Riley, whose family gets slaughtered by monsters, and Eric, who is cursed to protect him, as they try to save the world, and they apparently fall in love doing so. No idea what I'm going to expect. Stuff Your Kindle Day is I have impulse control issues sometimes, so when stuff is up for grabs for free, I tend to just grab it and not think about it because I don't have the brain cells or the spoons to do so. So we will see where Riley and Eric end up, I guess. Why was I glad that I was doing this pick right after the announcement video when I was listening to a cool song? Well, because the last song I listened to right now was the Funny Chicken song. I don't have a book with the word funny or chicken or song in the title. Funny Chicken song. Next up is the prompt that gave me the biggest headache of my life, which is elemental studies, and the book you choose has to have the word earth in the title. So I had to cheat a bit. I'm going to read The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Now you may be wondering, the fifth season doesn't have the word earth in the title, but as you can see, this is the German edition. But do you see this? These 4 letters? This word, Erde, is the German word for earth. So in German, this book is called Ripped Apart Earth. It is legit the only book I own with the word earth in the title. Keep that in mind, because this prompt will come back. This is a dystopian fantasy, apocalyptic fantasy, or so I've heard. And we follow a mother who tries to find her kidnapped daughter, and that is legit all I know, except that the world is actively dying in this. That is all I know about this. I think this is written in second person, or at least partially written in second person. I've heard that somewhere floating around, so that is going to be interesting. And the other thing I heard about this is that the world building is apparently really, really, really good. And I am a sucker for good world building. I wanted to read this for the longest time, so now I finally have an excuse to read it. Here we go. Then we have the prompt for inscription, which is read something from your end of the year TBR. Now, here is a problem. I don't have such a thing as an end of the year TBR. My end of the year TBR is usually finish whatever the fuck you started and haven't finished yet. I don't make lists of books that I want to read before the end of the year. I don't make X number of books read before you turn X number of years. I don't do this kind of stuff because I have trouble picturing things that are in the future. Time blindness is a thing. So I looked at the things that I have started so far this year and not finished for this, which surprisingly only amounts to 2 books. I am very proud of myself for only having not finished 2 books this year. And yes, again with the paperwork. This time I actually need the green post-it, because it has on it my choices for this prompt, which are How to Bite Your Neighbor and Win a Wager by D.N. Bryn, which I started in May? Yes, in May. I started in May. I think I'm like 83% through, which, yes, I know you should start books in the month of Orilium, but if the prompt is end of the year TBR and I only started... I'm reading 18 books this month. I get 1 early start. How to Bite Your Neighbor and Win a Wager. It's a title and a half, man. Is about a vampire who is living on the streets. Like he's not doing so hot on the whole being a vampire thing, and he breaks into people's houses and drinks blood from them at night because he can't afford the black market blood. And one day he finds this guy whose blood tastes better than anyone else's, and so he comes back, although he doesn't do that usually. Like he's like, okay, 1 bite and I'm out. And for this one, it's so good that he comes back, and at one point the guy realizes, hey, I'm getting bitten by a vampire, and wakes up in the middle of a biting session and is like, that's kind of hot. So he discovers, hey, I think I have a biting kink. They are also childhood friends, and from there on out it spirals out into this goofy friendship slash romance, but they don't know they have a romance going on. It's super cute. It's the definition of idiots to lovers. So that is one of the options. And the other one is Soul Keeper by David Dalglish, which is a book that just doesn't end. It's like this 700-page behemoth, and it doesn't end. I'm not a fan of Act 2. Period. But somehow this book feels like one big Act 2. It's so boring. We have so many characters, and they do so many things, and none of them are interesting. The world building is nice. The explanation of how magic works is so cool, because magic just returned to this world and people just don't know how it works, so they figure it out alongside you as the reader who's figuring it out. But everything is so boring! The most interesting character is a serial killer! A magical serial killer! Who's working for a dragon, who's also a mountain! Oh! Like, that's cool! But why is the rest of the book so boring? I just need something to happen. Judging from that, you can probably figure out yourself which one of these books I'm going to read. I give you a second to think about it. Maybe lock in your answer in the comments or something, I don't know. You do you, I can't tell you what to do. But yeah, these are my options, and I decided to leave it open to a mood pick when I get around to the prompt. The last prompt for Feywild Cartographer is another one in Inscription. This one wants me to have a shield on the cover. So I went through my covers and I found 2 books that match this description. One is completely irrelevant because I'm not going to read it, because I decided to read Blackheart Nights by Laure, which is an Arthurian retelling, but it's like set in a kind of modern world. Apparently electricity is a currency, so I guess it's a very limited resource. And the Knights of the Round Table are like a biker gang, and Arthur has magic, but magic is forbidden and illegal. That setup alone sounds kind of cool, and that's honestly everything that I needed to pick up this book. I've heard there's some queer representation in there. I just can't remember if it was sapphic or bisexual. I will find out. Keep those eyes open for the wrap-up and hope that I will actually read that book. We will find out. And there is a shield on the cover. It took me actually 3 glances to figure out that there is a shield on the cover, because it looks like a part of the motorbike on the cover, but actually on the backside of the bike there is it's a shield. So yeah. And that's it for the Feywild Cartographer, which equals out at 7 books, equals out at 7 books. And that's only the first half of this TBR. So on to the next one, which is Demonologist. As a demonologist, of course you have to take a class in demonology, which is, again, first prompt book that you see in social media. So I went to TikTok. And the first book that I saw on my For You page was Mastery by Alethea Faust, which is book 2 in the, bear with me, Sex Wizards series. As stupid as this sounds, this is a kink-based magic system. You have different kinks, which charge different kinds of magic. The first book, Initiation, had no right being as good as it was. The found family, the trust these characters have in each other, it's a good book. It's really smutty. Kink-based magic system, but it's really good. I can only recommend. What is this book about? Other than a kink-based magic system. We follow Domini, who is a late bloomer when it comes to magic. So he makes his way, to the Crux, which is magic learning school. And there he starts to be introduced to this concept of doing magic by doing other people. And in book 2, which is this one, he has trouble with casting himself. So Arlon, the headmaster of the school, is like, come hither, boy. I can teach you. I literally could tell you the school of magic he's learning right now, but we are not going into that. Mastery by Alethea Faust is the thing that I saw first on TikTok. Also, this is queer as fuck. Like this, I have yet to meet a character in here that is just straight and cisgender. Like, we have so much rep in here. So much rep. Everything. All the flags are in here. Except the red. Well, there are red flags in here, but those are the villains, so it's... Okay! Then, next up is Demonology 2, which wants me to have a magical creature in whatever I'm reading. So I decided to go for another Clio Evans. This time another creature cafe, because as the name suggests of the series, there are creatures in there and they are looking for love, and the barista is happy to oblige and give them their mate for life and eternity in some cases, actually. So the one I'm going with is the 4th installment, which is A Little Shop of Hate, and this is apparently, his name was, I believe, Meduso, who is a, and I quote, tentacle demon who wants to find his mate and be happy for the rest of his life. That's all I know, that's all I can say about this. These are usually very short. Again, the Creature Cafe series also very wholesome, very smutty. Check out trigger warnings. And all of that, yada yada yada. Also, this is not the last time we see Clio Evans on this here TBR. Okay. And then we have the last Demonology prompt, which is the 3rd one, which is, and I hate this prompt with every fiber of my being, in every kind of TBR that comes up, which is the pole pick. So I went to Twitter, I mean X, and put up 3 choices with emojis. All of them were thrillers because I'm reading so much fantasy this month. I was like, I need something to break it up. So I put emojis for 3 different thrillers in there, and in the end, this one is the one that prevailed. This is Take Another Look by Rosalind Noonan. I don't really know what this is about or if I will like this, because this was one of those times that I have had trouble with my impulse control, and I picked this up at a free library, and I am prone to picking up random thrillers apparently. According to what it says on the back, we follow a woman named Jane. She's a teacher, and she ran away from her abusive husband when she was pregnant, and now she's living her life free of any trouble except like the usual teenage troubles that her daughter has now. And then one day a girl shows up in school that looks exactly like her daughter, and then mysterious things start happening around her. No idea where this is going. It's a short thing, like barely over 300 pages, and it's a thriller. I usually am quite quick in reading thrillers, so I hope I can go through this quickly. I've been sitting here for a while. My brain is literally melting out of my ears right now. Okay. Now comes the point where we return to a prompt that gave me a headache. Again with the elemental studies, with the word earth in the title. Now, the perceptive viewer might remember that I said I only own 1 book that has the word earth in the title, and I already had to cheat and go with the German title to actually achieve that. So, what the fuck am I going to read for this prompt now? Well, what is earth? It's a bunch of dirt, but sometimes it's also made of stone. So I went with Stoneheart by Katee Roberts, which is a novella in the Dark Olympus series where we follow Medusa as she is falling in love with Calypso. Yeah, I had to cheat on that and go with the stone in order to make this work. It's close enough. Don't add me. It's close enough. Remember how I said we will go through the prompts in alphabetical order? Remember how I started my demonologist prompt list with the prompt demonology? Yeah. Conjuration starts with a C and comes definitely after D and all the other letters. Totally. The prompt for conjuration is to have a book set in a court or in a royal setting. That one also I needed to look up some stuff on my TBR to find one that is specifically like that has that kind of stuff. I have a bunch of books that feature like princes and kings and whatnot, but this is not the main setting, so I had to go a bit digging for that one. I found something. It's another Stuff Your Kindle Day surprise kit called Mercy of the Vampire King by Rhiannon Futch. Apparently it is about Valdis, who has to beg for aid and the courts of the Vampire King so she can keep her own lands or something. I don't know. That's all it says. It's Valdis goes begging to a Vampire King, and that Vampire King apparently is very, very interested in keeping Valdis. That's all I know. I guess there is a romance coming. Don't know how healthy that whole relationship is going to be, but it's a short read. It has a court setting in it. I'm happy. I can get it done in this month. Hopefully. Then we have the prompt of Spells and Incantations. The first one, which is to read a manga, comic, graphic novel, and I chose to go with Never Good Enough, Part 2. It's a duology, and I have to read the first one I chose to read the first one for the first in a series prompt, so naturally I thought I can end the whole thing the way I started it and read the second one. It's a manga. What can I say? And given it is the second manga, I stayed away from looking at the back of this because mangas in a row tend to spoil what happens in the one before. So I have no idea what's going to happen in this specific issue of the manga. Again, the brother of the next lover has an obsession. The last prompt for my demonologist calling is another Spells and Incantation one, which is the second one, and it wants me to read something with a black cover, predominantly black cover. So I chose to finally finish the Red Rising trilogy by reading Morning Star, which is about this dude named Darrow. Some shit happens to him, and then he figures out he's actually enslaved, and then he joins this rebel group and is now infiltrating the bourgeoisie and is trying to bring them down. And book 2 ended on quite the shocking twist, which I wasn't expecting after the first book disappointed me so much. And this picks up after that. Makes sense as the third book in the trilogy coming after the second book. I have the audiobook for this, which I'm very glad because I had so much trouble getting through book 1 and 2, and the audiobook helped tremendously. So I was like, yep, need the audiobook for this bitch. Got the audiobook for the bitch, and I hope I can get through this. This is a 500-page book. I have shorter books with black covers. People who are just somewhat capable of counting will have noticed that I am at 14 books on my TBR, and that I said I would read 18 books this month. The perceptive viewer might also notice that there is a small stack still left to get to the bigger stack right there. There are bonus qualifications. And in my infinite wisdom of idiocracy, I chose to do 2 of those. The first one being my dragon riding license, because who doesn't want to ride a dragon? I Blame Battle Mage by Peter A. Flannery. In order to be legally allowed to ride a dragon around Orilium, I have to read 2 books that feature dragons. And I decided that I might want to cheat a bit because I'm already reading 14 books and I don't have time to read a 600-page book about a dragon and then repeat the process by the end of the month. I know we don't have to finish these by the end of the month, but I want to, so I will. So I cheated a bit. I am going to reread Vox Machina Origins, Volume 1 and 2. It's based on the game Dungeons & Dragons, played by the cast of Critical Role. There are no dragons in these comic books. They happen later. But here's where I cheat. This infamous motherfucker is Tiberius Stormwind, and he's a dragonborn, meaning a dragon person. And I checked, he is still in the 2nd volume, so I can sneak my way around the dragon with the dragonborn. And it doesn't matter that it's just for like a handful of pages. He is in this, therefore he is featured. Therefore this counts as a dragon. Here, look, right there. Therefore this counts as a dragon, therefore I count it, therefore my dragon license will be rereading Volume 1 and 2 of Vox Machina Origins. Okay. And then as a demonologist, I feel obligated to summon my own impling this here school semester thing, which means we have 6 more prompts, but for once, we are allowed to double up. I desperately try to find a book that fits all of the prompts, so I only have to read 1. I always averaged out at 2, so I boiled it down to Hidden by Benedict Jacka, which is the 5th book in the Alex Varys series. These are nice palette cleansers. We follow Alex Varys, who is a diviner, who he can like literally see the future, like all of them, and then pick out the ones he wants to make them happen. And he just wants to like sell shit in his shop, but then problems come kicking his door in all the time. And this time it's for the 5th time, and he goes back to his roots amongst the dark mages in this one and apparently figures out some trauma. I hope he figures out some trauma, because that man, he needs a break, man. He needs a break. Someone just let him have a nap, please. He's just a dude. He's just a dude. Let him be a dude. Let him be a tiny, itty bitty dude. And this bitch fulfills the prompt of being between 400 and 450 pages. It fulfills the prompt of having 1 letter appear in the title twice, in the German and in the English title version, because the German version has a couple of E's in here and the English version has a double D in there. It's also blue on the cover. Blue horns, blue writing, blue. Blue. And I read from this author before, given that this is the 1st book. The 1st book in the series. It's the 5th book in the series, so I clearly have read from this author at least 4 times before. This is also one of those series that just goes on and on and on. I think we are at book 11 at this point. I like it. It's nice palette cleanser. They are fast reads. They are usually kind of action-packed, actually. And Alex Varys with his humor is just, yes. He's peak British humor, and yes. That means, though, that I still have some prompts to fulfill, which are, let me get my paperwork. It's not in this paperwork. It's another Clio Evans, who would have thunken? And it's the 5th installment of the Creature Cafe series, which is a little piece of Sass. I decided on that very recently to pick that one up, so I have no idea what Little Piece of Sass is about. I just know it is the 5th installment of this series, and it fulfills the prompt of having blue on the cover, of being a 2022 or 2023 release. I'm probably going to start this book at night because it's an ebook I have, and I tend to read ebooks when it is dark outside, because, you know, the screen lights up on its own, so I don't have to put on the big light, which is evil. And I also read from this author before, so yeah. Okay! So yeah, there you go. This is heavy. This is my TBR for next month, +5. This is so heavy. Wish me luck. I guess. Also, I'm pretty sure I never want to touch a book ever again after this month. I'm pretty sure I'm going to read a lot though, because the second half of the month I'm going on a vacation. It's a staycation actually. I'm going to house sit my aunt's house and subsequently her dog, which I love very dearly, so expect some dog content over on my Instagram. I also have to take care of a guinea pig, but we're not talking about that because that guinea pig's mere existence wants to kill me. And given that they are gone for 2.5 weeks, I will have to have extensive contact with that little beast. Hey. And usually when I'm over there, I get a lot of reading in because, I don't know, it's just a thing. Every time I house sit at my aunt's, it's something about the house. I mean, I'm pretty sure the house is haunted anyways. I can't feel my arm. I guess we'll see how many of these books I will read. Usually I switched around a lot of books over TBRs, even for readathons, but I literally have no wiggle room on this here stack. Even if I have another option, the other option is usually so much longer that I don't think I have the time to read the other option. I'm pretty much stuck with this one, which is a new experience for me. In case anyone wonders, this averages out to over 4,600 pages. Given there are comics and mangas in here, and the mangas alone are 200 pages each, but oh boy, there's still a lot of reading I need to do. Wish me luck, and give me some thoughts and prayers that this stack will not fall on my head, because I'm pretty sure that would actually kill me. Yeah, cool. Bye.